I hope. Yes, sir.
The biggest surprise I've had since I started organic gardening about 15 years ago was growing carrots in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
You pull up a carrot that you've grown all winter long, it's like eating a Mars bar.
Oh yeah, they're so sweet.
I had some people helping me with my garden, and I made the world's biggest mistake, and I pulled up a couple of carrots and rinsed them off and gave them to them. And then that was the last carrots I got.
Yep. Oh, there's so many fun things to plant, and anybody who's done it knows there's just a world of difference in the flavor and plus the satisfaction. Questions?
Can we grow parsnips here?
I have never grown parsnips here. I don't think we're cold enough for it. Anybody ever grown parsnips? You can try it and let us know what the results are. I will stay and answer questions as long as anybody likes. If you need to go, you're not going to embarrass me by getting up and leaving. But, Jason?
Back to soil. You always used to say if someone had sent their, here in Texas, they sent their soil off to the lab to get tested, you'd say to have A, B, C, D. What were those?
Okay. If anybody, the one other thing I didn't mention, if you're wanting to get lots of life back into your soil, compost tea is a great thing to do. We do whole seminars on compost tea. We have handouts on how to make. We're starting to make it again. We'll have it on weekends. If anybody wants fresh compost tea, we have it today for the first time in several weeks. The difference in most soil tests is the way your standard Ag College lab does it. They dump a strong base in, they dump a strong acid in, and then they see what leached out. That tells you what's in the soil, but it doesn't tell you what's there that the plants can use. The lab I recommend, Texas Plant and Soils Labs down in the valley, they treat it with a very mild acid they call carbonic acid. The way that plants extract things from the soil is they release carbon dioxide through their roots. The carbon dioxide combines with water in the soil to form carbonic acid. That mild acid dissolves a number of the things that are in the soil that the plants can use. Texas Plant and Soils Labs uses a very similar process. So they're telling you not necessarily what's in the soil, but what's in the soil that the plants can get to. So I think their soil test is much more useful as figuring out what you need to add to your garden or not.
And you usually say they come back with usually the same results kind of for this area.
Oh, the chemical treatments, man, I've seen 1,000 of them, and you could have run them through a copy machine. They're all pretty much the same. Yes, ma'am.
If you mentioned this earlier, I missed it, and I'm sorry, but do strawberry plants grow as well in pots as they do in the ground?
In good-sized pots, yes. Or the old, decorative thing, or what they call the strawberry jars that have all the little pockets around. You can stick a plant in each little deal. And it's fun to do, and you can go out and pick some strawberries, but you're going to have a big plot to have enough to make a strawberry pie out of. Yes?
I wanted to ask about zeolite.
Uh-huh.
Is that going to be something I have some, so can I put it in the vegetable garden?
Put it in a part of your vegetable garden and see if you see any difference. It's not going to hurt anything.
Do you have to put it under the soil or just on top and let it?
Probably sprinkle it on top and then kind of work it in as you plant. It has what we call a high cation exchange capacity, which means that it will hold the nutrient particles from fertilizer in place until the plants are ready to use them.
How much would you do for, I gotta say, 250 square feet?
250 square feet, I'd probably put 10 pounds in there. Yes, sir.
Well, I have an access to a large supply of fish trimmings, guts and everything.
Mm-hmm.
How do I handle that? Do I have to
Very
grind them
carefully.
up? I know, but how would you use it if I was going to make compost or whatever?
Again, you're going to have a real odor problem if it's on top of the ground, and you're going to have raccoons and everything else trying to get into it. I would bury it in the garden somewhere and let it decompose in the soil, and then if you want to kind of dig that out, spread it around a little bit. Same way we normally do with kitchen scraps, rather than putting them on the surface, just dig a hole somewhere, throw them in there, cover it up, let them rot in the ground, and that'll be good fertile soil. Or else you can just take a few shovelfuls of that and just spread it around after it's totally done.
So if I had a couple barrels, you need a backhoe then, don't I?
It depends on how good or bad your soil is. But that's just, again, there's nothing wrong with it, but you're going to have an odor issue and you're going to have a varmint issue.
Well, that's no problem, except for the varmints, and I can cage it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Years ago when I worked with Alton Grimm up in the hill country, had a guy in the nursery one time from Chavano Park, and he said, I want to buy a gallon of fish emulsion. And this is back in the days when it was all the heat-treated stuff, and I mean, it was rank. And I said, are you sure you want to do this? You know this product has some odor to it, and you might want to start with the smaller bottle first. And he said, nope, I know what I want, sell me that gallon of it. So I did. He was back in the nursery about a week later, and he said that fish emulsion killed everything on my patio. I said, I don't see how that could be. That stuff's not strong enough. It wouldn't burn. There wouldn't be any problem. He said, nope, killed everything on my patio. And I said, well, exactly how did it kill everything on your patio? He said, I went out and put it on my plants. That night an army of raccoons came through and dug every plant out of the pot, destroyed the root system looking for whatever smelled so good. So anyway, yeah, you'll have a varmint issue, but you know, it's supposedly the old Indian thing was, you know, dig the hole, throw a fish in, and plant a seed on top of it.
Okay.
So it's good fertilizer. Yes.
Is vulcanite or other paramagnetic amendment something you do seasonally, or is that a one-time?
That's really a one-time thing. Yeah, probably good for 500 years. So, you know, do it when you get, do it again when you get old.
What about molasses for the soil?
Molasses is a great energy source for the microbes in the soil. Molasses is always a good thing as long as you don't overdo it. Dry molasses is fine. Liquid molasses is fine too.
So don't overdo it.
You can use so much of it that you can burn plants. You're probably not going to, especially with dry.
I just want to put it on the soil because I have real clay, awful soil, and I'm
Yeah.
always putting lava sand and humus and molasses, so it's not going to burn.
Not
like
going to burn in that use.
How much per square foot?
Let's say per 100 square feet, maybe 5 pounds. Yeah.
We need to trim or prune by brush.
Uh-huh.
Can we use hedge trimmers and when?
You can use hedge trimmers. If you're going to prune in the fall, do it now, because when you trim, you're going to stimulate new growth, and if you wait late in the season, that new growth is going to be susceptible to freeze damage. So if you're going to trim, do it now. The best time to trim is to let it bloom in the spring and then trim immediately afterwards. That way, you'll have the least impact on your flowering. Yes, sir.
Going back to molasses and seaweed, you had said, basically spray it on the foliage. I was putting it in a watering can with all the holes. Is that okay, or do I?
Oh yeah, that's fine. If you just pouring it over the plant,
yeah,
that's fine. If you have a a small garden, if you have a garden as big as mine or as his, just spend your whole life out there mixing it up in a watering can and pouring it on.
Next one.
Yeah. No, it's a fine way to do it. It's just much more labor intensive. Yes, ma'am.
How about squash, specifically Tatuma, Mexican squash, or zucchini, or yellow squash?
It's too late to plant it this fall, I think. I think probably we're going to have cold weather before it would have a chance to produce. But planted mid-August, you can grow a wonderful crop of fall squash. The Tatumi has such a thin skin, or such a thin stem, you'll not have any problem with squash vine borers in it. That's one of the big advantages of that. I still am very fond of zucchini though. And I just plant it when it comes up. I dust the center of it with dipel, and I grow pretty good squash. When I can water. I didn't grow a fall crop of squash because we didn't have any water. But now we're into more cool weather things. And it's fun. And now you have something to do this afternoon. Yes, ma'am.
How long does it take bush beans to mature?
45 to 55 days, depending on the variety.
Should I be seeing something coming out other than blossoms? I mean, everything looks really good.
Are you starting to have blossoms?
Yeah, I mean, I've got blossoms on the tomatoes, I've got blossoms on the bush beans. But
You'll start seeing beans within a week or 10 days.
Okay, but there's no fruit on the tomatoes yet or anything. But they look really great.
That probably has more to do with nighttime temperatures than anything. You should start seeing tomato fruit within the next week or 10 days
Don't
too.
get worried yet.
No, don't worry yet.
I've been babying that garden.
I understand.
It's like a child.
Yeah, well, slap it around every now and then. You need to get its attention.
You won't be asking that
Someone has
question
a
about
patio garden, and the
very long.
patio is like
Once
in the
they
sun.
start-
Is there something, should they elevate the pots, or Because they seem to just cook the plants around the patio.
In the fall, that's not a concern. In the summer months, yeah, you may want to do something for a little protection, but in the fall, no, the sun's not going to be a problem. You're welcome. Guys, thanks for coming. We'll do it again every Saturday through the fall, and then start up again in the spring for those of y'all that are new to it.
What time is the children's?